healthcare?
Well, we can come back to healthcare too
Yeah.
if somebody wants to bring up something else. Yeah.
Just one quick question. I get questions that under the new regime in Washington, that the congregate meal sites, the money is gonna be cut out for any funding for those. And Meals on Wheels and congregate meals and all of those things.
There's more than, you probably know this better than I do because you deal with it. So the extent to which I'm wrong, tell me. But there is more than one place, one source of funding for Meals on Wheels. And one of them is in Department of Housing and Urban Development. And it, and about 1 or 2% of the funding comes from that. And that program was going to be deleted. So people read that as saying, we're going to do away with Meals on Wheels. We're not going to do away with Meals on Wheels.
I have a follow-up on the healthcare issue. I'm here representing the oldest continuously run business on Main Street in Columbus Junction, the Columbus Gazette. We've been in business for 131 years, and we would like to continue to do so. Our main concern is maintaining our stream of revenue, and since our profit margin is extremely thin, that is a running concern every day, all day. And nearly all of our revenue comes from advertising. And some of our largest advertisers happen to be rural healthcare facilities, such as nearby nursing homes and rural hospitals. Colonial Manor, our nursing home facility in Columbus Junction, which I don't see a representative here.
Back here.
Oh, she just walked in? Okay. Is one of the largest employers in this county and one of our largest advertisers, as I stated. Their continued success, I would assume, would rely heavily on the Medicaid funding they receive from the government. Nearly 64% of residents in nursing homes in the United States receive Medicaid assistance. Over 50% of all Iowans that are residents of nursing home facilities receive Medicaid funding. Medicaid funds 10 to 20% of rural hospital patients. Over 600,000 of Iowa's 3.1 million residents receives Medicaid funding. Steve Ackerson, the president of the Iowa Health Care Association, predicted most rural nursing homes and hospitals will be forced to close their doors. The Iowa Hospital Association said that uncompensated cost coverage would increase by 66%, leaving most rural hospitals operating at a negative 8.9% in the red. The latest health insurance legislation in the Senate, proposed by Republicans behind closed doors, proposes to end Medicaid expansion, cutting Medicaid spending by 25%. If our local nursing home or the nearest rural hospitals or any other care facilities in Louisa County are forced to close because of the defunding of Medicaid, that will directly affect our business and our bottom line, and probably the majority of the businesses here in Louisa County. We could be forced to close our doors because it will no longer be able to keep the business afloat. So far you've been non-committal about Trump care legislation, saying that you were studying it, I quote you. You've stated that Congressional Budget Office's estimate about this particular legislation is unreliable, but just earlier you quoted them about Obamacare. And in the past, you have lauded the CBO for its estimates on legislation that you were backing. And I've noticed that you don't have any public town halls scheduled during the July recess. And your constituents have grave concerns about Trump care. So if you're not going to listen to the Iowa Nursing Home Association, the Iowa Hospital Association, the CBO, what exactly are you studying, Senator?
The legislation.
Okay.
Not like Pelosi, you gotta pass it before you know what's in it.
But no one else knows what's in it because it was done behind closed doors.
It's on the website, read it.
But the healthcare experts weren't even asked about their input.
Okay, let's go back to some basic things, because I think you brought up something that kind of distorts how I handle things. Number one, I have been quoted as saying what's very accurate, CBO, Congressional Budget Office, is like God. Now, they can be wrong, but they're still like God. And the reason they're like God, they say something costs something. And if you as a member of the Senate want to change, go above what they say, something costs, then you, and with an amendment, we'll say, you gotta have there'll be a point of order against your amendment, then you gotta have 60 votes to override the Congressional Budget Office. Because if you don't get 60 votes, then your amendment's not in order. So, like I stated in Obamacare, several things that they said were going to happen, now 8, 9 years later, they have not happened. CBO people have very qualified people to make judgments about the future. But just like you can't tell what's gonna happen 10 years down the road, the best economists can make mistakes.
But it's also a defunding of Medicaid, so you're trying to give the
Okay.
recipients in nursing homes less money for their care. Where are they gonna go?
I better listen to you instead of talking then, because I got interrupted.
I'm all ears.
Oh, okay. And then, like, I'm just saying to you that what CBO is saying about the House bill or about the Senate bill could be wrong. I hope it's not wrong, but it could be wrong, just like they were wrong about Obamacare. So that's why, to protect the people of the country, nothing happens for 3 years, and then it phases in gradually for the next 5 years. So if there are mistakes, they can be corrected, like the Congress could have corrected the mistakes that were in Obamacare, but they didn't correct them. So now we are in a position to make up for what wasn't changed in Obamacare that should have been changed along the way. So anything that people raise faults about, or they use CBO as projections about what could happen, as you read those things, and I wouldn't want to say you're wrong, but they're based upon what CBO said, and CBO was wrong as they looked ahead 10 years on Obamacare, so they could look ahead 10 years on this, but we've got it built in that if there are things that don't work out the way we planned, we can change it.
The statistics were also cited by the Iowa Hospital Association and the Iowa Nursing Home Association. And my question is, if it's going to defund Medicaid, that's taking away care for patients. This is more, to me, it seems like a health insurance legislation, not health care legislation.
Well,
I would like to know that my senator, because I'm your constituent, is going to vote against any legislation that will take care away from anyone.
I have to take into consideration 72,000 Iowans can't even get insurance. That's pretty important too, isn't it?
But also, 22 million people will have less insurance under Trump care.
Yeah. One of the reasons that they won't have insurance is because the law isn't going to require them to buy insurance anymore.
Well, it's not much of a choice to get insurance if you can't afford it.
Yeah, that's exactly why we're doing something, because of what has been said here already, that insurance is so expensive with the deductions and the co-pays so high, people buy insurance and they can't really use it.
Well,
That's what we're trying to correct, and that's what turned out to be wrong with Affordable Care Act.
then why not just correct Affordable Care Act instead of repealing and replacing it?
That's exactly what we have to do under the rules of the Senate. Probably, 122 pages is not replacing 2,700 pages in Obamacare. A lot of Obamacare is going to be retained, and 2 of them, I told you, are going to be retained. One of them, pre-existing conditions, the other one, 26 years under, 26 years, age 26, kids can be on their insurance.
Well, the Senate is going to do it by 51 votes, not 60 votes, because it's under reconciliation, so it's not.
And that's the reason you can't repeal. That's the reason you gotta make amendments to Obamacare.
All right, thank you, Senator.
Hey, I want to talk about something else, not healthcare. In the past, they're talking now about